Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
Nobody wanted to make an original movie in that budget range. Sinners cost $90 million. That movie is sort of serving as a proof of concept to the entire industry. That, like, you shouldn't be scared of these because they work. There's an audience.
Really? I thought it was, quote, the end of the studio system, Ashley. As some media headlines made it out to be.
Yes, I know.
Now it's the template for success
Wow,
moving
welcome
forward.
to Hollywood, yeah.
Welcome to the Anchor Podcast. It's Thursday, May 1st, and I'm Elaine Lowe, author of the Series Business Newsletter, coming to you this week from Denver, Colorado, where I'm at Series Fest, moderating a keynote and being part of a jury on a pilot competition, which is a real first for me. So if you're out here and see me around, give me a shout. Now, I want to say, I think this is a record. The Ankler team today is coming to you from 4 time zones. We have Natalie Jarvie, author of the Like and Subscribe newsletter, on Pacific Time in LA. I'm in Mountain Time, of course. Our Dealmakers columnist, Ashley Cullins, is in Central Time from Nashville. And, of course, Sean McNulty of the Wake Up newsletter is several hours in the future in Eastern Daylight
I'm ahead of you
Time.
all. I'm ahead of you all, is what you're trying to say.
Yes, you're in the future.
Well, it's looking great. Everything's turned around, I'm telling you.
How's the future look, Sean? Good? Yeah?
It's a bright, sunny spring day in New York. I'll leave it at that. So that's what I'm looking at right now. So let's focus on the positive, Elaine.
All right, a veritable smorgasbord of time zones, and Ashley will be joining us in a bit. But for now, welcome, Sean, and hey, welcome, Natalie.
I'm still only on my first cup of coffee, Elaine, so you guys have to bear with me this morning.
I have not had breakfast for the record yet. So So I'm on LA breakfast time, but New York actual time.
All right, that keeps things a little bit more equal there, Sean.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, we've got lots to talk about today. It's already May, which means we've had several months of deal making in Hollywood. And by the numbers, 2025 is looking more robust than last year. We're going to look at all the first look deals, overall deals, most and least active studios. And Ashley's going to spill on how to get an original film greenlit in a still sometimes challenging market. And later on, Sean, you're going to tell us about all things box office. And then we're also apparently going to figure out who the undisputed best panel member of this podcast is with a little pop quiz. You know
As
how I
always.
love those.
You do so well with those, Elaine.
Elaine,
I
we already know the
do.
winner,
I
Elaine.
think-
It's you. What are you talking about?
I know, it's me.
Clearly.
I think if there's like a record for losing these pop quizzes, it's me.
Who has
But-
lost the most Ankler pop? That's the next pop quiz I'll give you. Yeah. You'll get that one. You'll get that question right.
Well, first, let's talk about a little more somber news. South by Southwest had an unexpected leadership shakeup this week. Sean, what's the TLDR on South by?
Yeah, I mean, it's a report from Nicole Sperling over at the New York Times there. But yeah, the longtime president, Hugh Forrest, is leaving the company. He's said, not of his decision, it sounds like. Some conflicting reports, of course, from coming out of Penske and coming from Hugh there. But he and 10 other folks are leaving, including the head of comms and the CTO. So these are high-level people who've been there for decades. Penske Media. I don't know if Jay's doing it himself. Penske Media is now installing their EVP of Product and Tech, Jenny Connolly, to be in charge of the festival. Take that as you will. A member of the board of the festival said that the festival, the 24 and 25 editions, both did not meet their revenue goals. There were some details around some lowered severance payments going on there as well for people who are leaving. So just a lot of signs adding up there, Elaine, that I put my headline, the turmoil. It's just like, all right, clearly there's a big shakeup here. Jay, of course, Penske Media, I should say again, bought in 2021 and took a controlling interest in 2023. So this kind of coincides with taking control of the festival, Elaine. The 2 festivals since then, again, have not met their revenue goals, but they also have a looming, the Austin Convention Center, which is kind of the main hub for the festivals, going under
Yeah, they won't have that as their home.
a 3-year renovation starting starting next year. So they got to have an alternate plan there for Austin in 2026.
This is always the push and pull of these kinds of situations, right? The festival wanted to grow, so they brought on investors, and then investors eventually become majority owners, and then they make
Have
changes.
their own
They have
ideas.
other ideas.
Yeah. And they're growing some international editions, Natalie, I think, too. And they're trying, to get, you're right, exactly right, grow the business in different ways. And they were not crazy about the past management, I guess, or whatever it might be. Now, read into it as you like, but that's the net of it is definitely a power move for sure, Elaine, on the Penske Media point
I
of view.
will say I am hearing some interesting things about South by Southwest London, which is coming up. So we'll see if they're successful in kind of bringing that brand to other cities. But that's one, at least in the circles that I run in, people are talking about it. I think people are planning to go.
Yeah, so, South by Southwest is a mindset, obviously not a geographical point there. So I'm sure London is a South by Southwest region, right? Technically speaking. So,
Do they drink Lone Stars there? That's the question.
Yeah, what's on the drink menu? Exactly right. Yeah. Well, burning questions here about South by Southwest. We'll find out.
And this week also marks the 2-year anniversary, we should mention, of the start of the Writers Guild of America strike. It's wild that it's already been 2 years.
Where were you today, Elaine, 2 years ago?
Yeah, well, technically it was May 2nd.
May
So where
2nd.
was I tomorrow, which would have been on the picket lines outside of Netflix and Warner Brothers and Disney.
Yeah.
Natalie, you were also out there. That was a hell of a summer.
It sure was. I'm honestly like, where does the time go? I can't believe it was already 2 years ago.
I know. And then the SAG strike started later that summer in like July-ish. But yeah, I mean, combined all of these things, plus the industry-wide pullback that had already started before the strikes, have left a real lasting impact on the whole business and also the state of deal making, which leads us to our main segment today about all the deals struck so far this year and what they tell us about the state of the industry. And with us here to tackle this is Ashley Collins of our Dealmakers newsletter, dialing in from the Central Time Zone. Hi, Ashley.
Hi, guys.
So first off, lots of notable deals here in your column this week. What were some of the biggest and most significant ones that were made in Q1 of 2025? Like, what sticks out to you in particular?
I think what sticks out is just that they're happening everywhere.
That they're happening at all.
Yeah. I did like a year ago a story about how overalls were dying because a year ago they were. Yeah. And now they're certainly not at the scale they were at when the streamers were in their arms race and writing essentially blank checks. But like they are coming back, maybe a little bit less quietly because the optics aren't great. Like people are in the industry are struggling. So not everybody who is getting a big deal is necessarily like running out to scream it from the rooftops. But what I was mostly surprised by is that, like, if you look, they're happening everywhere. 20th TV has 4 first look deals that I, included in this piece with Lee Daniels, Ryan Reynolds, Peyton Manning, Dwayne Johnson, like big names. And then Netflix is on the list, Paramount and its various divisions had a couple, NBC Universal, Warner Brothers, Sony, like there's activity everywhere.
Yeah, it's funny that you mention that they're not really shouting it from the rooftops. I mean, at least I remember kind of coming out of the strikes, I would get that same feel from showrunners who had sold stuff. They were kind of like, yeah, it's really great. But also, I don't know if it's like survivor's guilt or just not wanting to brag in a down market. But it was kind of like, yeah, this is great. But like, let's not tell anyone. I mean, how does this like compare with other parts of town? Like, Natalie, how does this compare with deal making happening in the creator economy right now?
Well, these deals are very different, right? Something that has always struck me when I talk to people who are doing deals in the creator space is that when you're talking about the brand deals that creators are getting, they're doing hundreds of deals a year compared to, a couple of deals for, top Hollywood talent. So, those big overall deals or first look deals are going to be much more significant than anything in the creator space. But the deal flow is just, it's wildly different depending
So like
on
higher volume, smaller paycheck.
Yeah, exactly.
I think in the creator space, it's probably like podcasts is probably the more activity out of anything, like in terms of a deal thing where it's like, creator, like YouTube doesn't sign, exclusive deals with like creators. Like that battle of platforms, Natalie, hasn't really evolved.
That's a good point. Like, do you feel like we'll get there?
Yeah.
A lot of the folks that I'm talking to think that that is where things are headed, that eventually you will start to, YouTube and TikTok probably won't ever be signing first look deals with creators, but that more creators will get savvy about licensing their content kind of through the Hollywood ecosystem. So finding second, third windows for their videos on Netflix, on Hulu. I mean, this is already happening, Sean.
Of course, our favorite, Miss Rachel, who has a yogurt deal she announced this week. I was very excited to read that.
A yogurt deal.
Yeah, I think
Go
it was
get it, Miss Rachel.
Yeah, I think it was yogurt.
You
like
are
that.
the premier Miss Rachel reporter at this point, Sean, I think.
I feel like I should meet her at some point. I'm like, all right, I don't know. But again, it's like, I don't watch her programming, but I know all about it,
But, speaking of like more deals, smaller paychecks, Ashley, you actually wrote that that's kind of what's happening in TV and film land as well, though, right?
Yeah, it is. That was sort of the consensus among the people I talked to when I was like, what is the biggest way your job has changed in the last year or so? And it's volumes up, but value is down. And things are significantly more active than they were like right after the strike. There was this time period where everybody sort of expected as soon as the strikes ended that like everything was going to get right back to business.
Right.
But there was kind of a lag, and in a lot of ways that still has never happened.
Right.
But now, another year out from the beginning of it, we're seeing business continuing. And I had this, maybe naively optimistic moment where I'm like, but wait, if you're telling me they're doing more deals, that means taking more swings, right? And they were like, you would think, but no, not quite really. It's just that like everybody's getting squeezed and making less money. So sorry.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the names of these people that you mentioned, Ashley, they're all still big names. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that, signing a deal with Ryan Reynolds is like a risk or a big swing right now.
Right.
I mean, these are super well-known, kind of high-end talent in this town. We're not seeing some of the same deals we used to where it was some writer or producer getting an overall, right?
I mean, a couple of them, like the showrunners for Fire Country, which I don't know is like the biggest show out there. I mean, certainly people are watching it if they were able to make a first look at CBS.
It does pretty well. And they also have Sheriff Country as a spinoff.
The spinoff coming too. So, yeah.
Yeah, we talked to them at NAB on stage with a couple of CBS execs, and it sounds like they're all in on making this like a new franchise.
Yeah, but so like that's sort of the like working showrunners, for lack of a less ridiculous way to put that.
Right. But everybody else on here is like a household name. All right. Well, when we get back, we're going to talk about the studios that were most and least active in the past months. And we'll also talk a little bit more about how to get that original film greenlit in 2025. So stick around. We'll be back in a moment.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
Hi, I'm Elaine Lowe in Los Angeles, coming to you from the heart of Hollywood.
And I'm Minori Ravindran in London, reporting from the UK about the international market.
Together, we write the Series Business newsletter for The Ankler.
Series Business is a twice-weekly newsletter for paid subscribers to The Ankler that dives deep into everything you need to know about the rapidly evolving TV industry.
We've got an insider's perspective on where the jobs are, what's selling in the market, who's buying what kinds of shows, the new bottom line for budgets, and, of course, any and all industry shakeups.
Join us every Monday and Thursday for all the essential information you need for your job and career. Sign up to receive Series Business as part of a paid subscription on theankler.com.
All right, welcome back to the Ankler podcast, where we're taking a close look at all the deals struck in Q1 of 2025 in Hollywood. We've got Ashley Collins of the Dealmakers newsletter on here, as well as Like and Subscribe's Natalie Jarvie and the Wake Up's Sean McNulty. All right, Ashley, so let's talk a little bit about the big players and what they've been up to in the world of deal making this year. Which studios have been the most active in 25?
Gosh, it's a hard question because you can look at sort of my bulleted list and go, oh, wow, the Disney companies are really at it. But then I feel like I'm reading about Amazon every single day in the wake up.
Amazon and Sony, I'm going to name you right now, probably the two. Like, Sony TV. Like, Sony TV last year, they were the ones actually, to your point about the gate wasn't opening up that much. At Sony TV, they were, guns blazing because they had, I counted at one point, it was at least 10 TV writer deals that they were making. Again, they weren't large, Ashley, exactly to your point, weren't the big flashy stuff, but they were getting people in-house. They were first look, not, overall and all that kind of stuff, but they were signing like it was no tomorrow. Kathleen Pope over there is just, so that one was they were very active. And then Amazon MGM on the movie side, because again, they're ramping up to this 14, 15 movie a year cadence theatrically was the other one. So yeah, I would totally agree. But it's top of my head, we're exactly the same spot there, Ashley.
Yeah. And the one thing that also sort of jumped out to me about this and in my conversations is that to a certain extent, obviously the huge names are not impacted by the minor shifts in the entertainment landscape. But the other encouraging thing people are saying is if you've got a verified hit, if you play a real role in something that's doing really well, it's still possible to capitalize on that. And you see that with, to your point, Sony, the writers for Perry Mason have an overall at Sony now, which it's they're being rewarded with a bigger deal in exchange for the things that they've made that have been successful. And then you have somebody like Glenn Powell, who it's right. Of course Glenn Powell got a first look deal at Universal because everybody wants Glenn Powell.
Yeah.
So there are definitely, I think, encouraging signs of life everywhere right now.
Sean, do you feel like that's true in terms of the deal flow that you're seeing come through the wake up every day?
Yeah, as Ashley's correct, and Amazon just is going for it in 2025 across the board, whether that's new projects or deals or whatever it might be. And they were very busy in 24 as well to a degree. But yeah, Paramount has a little bit of activity. It does, WBTV is, I think they've had a lot of deals. Bill Lawrence is still there and very prolific. So they're still selling shows to a lot of places. I think just, they didn't need to bump up because they had a pretty strong roster already per se. And then Universal, as I said, again, adding Glenn Powell to your stable, of course, great. But they have Jason Blum. They have a very, they have Illumination. They have a lot of people in the house there already. So it depends a little bit, by studio, certainly. The activity this year's been, again,
maybe except at Paramount.
Paramount, no, but on the movie side, the TV side, I'm not seeing, I would say, nothing. And I think, they went down from 3 studios to 2 studios. CBS Studios, obviously, still in the fire country and that kind of a business. Mm-hmm. But in terms of Paramount, otherwise, it's pretty quiet.
Broader, at least as a buyer, when I talk to agents and producers, they're just sort of what does TV, Paramount want? Question mark.
Yeah. But on the film side, Brian's keeping they've been still greenlighting stuff and the film stuff's been moving along pretty well at Paramount. So I will say that much.
Yeah. One of the things that somebody said to me that I thought was really interesting is they have clients who don't want to sell to either half of that about to be merged company right now because they don't know in terms of volume what the merged entity is going to be doing. So is it going to be a 100% of the volume from Paramount, 100% of the volume from Skydance equals 200% of the volume, or is it going to be equals 120% of the volume and bye to a lot of those deals?
80% goes somewhere else. Yeah.
The latter sounds a little more realistic. And unfortunately,
Well, so I'm curious, do sellers right now have that kind of leverage? Can they say, I don't want to sell somewhere? It feels to me like it's not really a seller's market in Hollywood these days. I'm curious if anyone's turning away deals right now.
That's true. Even when you take a show out to a buyer, at least on the TV side, you're not taking it out to everybody in town anymore. You're going 3 or 4 certain players where you're okay, there's a good chance they may buy. So you're not even taking it out across the board the way you used to.
Yeah, I think, Apple just bought a big, this is again, movie pitch, not TV pitch, but a big, it's supposedly in demand. This is obviously, reporting in the trade, so who knows how active this actually was. But supposedly it's a family Frosty the Snowman-ish kind of holiday movie, but very much just pitching around, a lot of interest, and Apple won out. And Apple, we haven't even mentioned Apple here, who's still buying on the movie front. And Ashley, to your point about the questions, well, especially on the film side, will this go theatrical? Well, who knows what that plan is anymore? So, again, if you want your movie in theaters, which we saw for Sinners, and Ryan Coogler was a big part of his thing. He wasn't even really, of the 3 people in contention for that, that, there were theatrical, companies because he wanted to be in theaters. So that Apple question is a little still like, what's the plan here? Because I don't know if my film's going to end up, the Nellie Portman, John Krasinski movie, Guy Ritchie directing is an Apple movie. F1, Brad Pitt is coming out in theaters. So they're still doing a mix there. So if that's a priority, Ashley, but I guess that's important. But at some point, I got to think a sale's a sale, Ashley. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a little...
It's one of those things, like, if you have enough leverage to be picky, you can be picky.
Okay,
if you don't, you can't.
If you're Ryan Coogler, yeah, right. Congratulations. Yeah, if you're not, then maybe, yeah, good point.
All right. And Ashley, you're dropping another story today, and you teased that you had intel on the state of getting original films greenlit this year. So do tell. I'm sure that's coveted information.
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out a way to tease it for people who haven't read it, but yet still make them go read it. It's all about proof of concept. Right? So Coogler's Sinners is in what I was told was a no man's land of budget between $50 and $100 million. Nobody wanted to make an original movie in that budget range. Sinners cost $90 million. That movie is sort of serving as a proof of concept to the entire industry that, like, you shouldn't be scared of these because they work. There's an audience.
Really? I thought it was, quote, the end of the studio system, Ashley, as some media headlines made it out to be.
Yes, I know.
Now it's the template for success moving
welcome
forward.
to Hollywood, yeah.
Listen, the funny thing to me watching that whole thing is, like, all of these people opining about the significance of Coogler's deal. And it's like, when you talk to the people who actually make deals in Hollywood, like, they don't care. What they care about is that they've been begging, their clients have been begging to make original movies.
Right.
And this is showing that can work. So, hey, studios, let's get moving. And then the other end of sort of the proof of concept spectrum is this short that went viral last year called The Crossing Over Express, which I'm using as sort of a case study for that advice that used to sound so just like useless and cliche. Like, if you're a writer, go write. If you're a director, go direct. Just go make your thing.
Go make something. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, so they did this, right, for $5,000, and now they're adapting it into a feature because 2 million people watched it on Twitter. And in the modern landscape, with modern equipment, with modern free distribution options, that go make your thing actually is a viable way to get noticed by Hollywood. And so I have an update on what has been going on for those filmmakers and for this project. And there's been some, like, really interesting stuff, including just from the last few days.
People that I talk to in the digital world have been preaching this for so long. Why don't you just go put something up on YouTube and see if it finds an audience? I think the challenge there for Hollywood has always been that the economic models of YouTube and Instagram and TikTok are not totally there yet. I mean, CPMs on YouTube are significantly lower than they are on television. So, I think that this is changing, and I do think we will start to see more of this, but I think Hollywood will have to kind of wrap their head around making something at a much, much lower price than they're used to. And also, be taking a loss on something for a bit and seeing if it can work and can eventually then parlay into a movie that is successful in theaters.
All right, now we get to the game portion of our show, my favorite, which Sean here is going to lead. And I believe this one is called Media Median Age.
Very catchy. Get your hashtags going on that one. So pretty much what it sounds like, I'm going to give you 7 media platforms, anything from social platforms, TV, movies, anywhere you kind of watch stuff. And you're going to guess what the median age is for users. That's not the average. That's a median. So basically, we're going to give you all 7 at the top, and you're going to have you tell me first which one you think has the lowest median age of these 7 platforms. All right, you guys ready?
All right, let's do it.
All right, Elaine's ready. Good enough. We have Netflix, YouTube, cable news, podcasts, Instagram, the NFL, or movie theaters. Which one of those has the youngest median age?
Well, obviously, it's cable TV.
Hey, Natalie is nothing if not dialed into the youth, all right? I will spoil it. That is the oldest. I will put that out there right now. All right, Ashley, going to you. What do you got?
My money's on YouTube because unsupervised children, unless those ages aren't being reported. If we're talking like accurate ages, I think it's YouTube.
Well, that's to be debated, okay, in terms of age tracking online. All right, YouTube. All right, Elaine, what do you got?
By the way, my 6 and 10-year-old watch, definitely YouTube.
Okay, definitely YouTube. Okay.
Has to be YouTube. They're not on Instagram, that's for sure.
They better not be. I don't know. Elaine's on the road, everybody. Kids go crazy. There you go. Natalie, what do you got?
Well, given the fact that, a lot of these platforms don't let kids under 13 have their own accounts, I know there's YouTube Kids. I'm going to just change it up and say Instagram to keep things interesting.
Okay. All right. You're all wrong.
It's actually cable news, isn't it?
It's definitely not that, but it is the one you're going to be surprised at. Apparently, it's movie theaters.
What? Get out.
I don't
No.
listen. That was my. I did not assemble this list, so
I have a theory here.
Let's hear it.
Stressed out millennials are afraid of the theatrical experience dying because it was part of our childhood. So now that we have kids, we're bringing Gen Alpha back to theaters.
I know,
I'm not.
My kids love going to the movie theater.
There you go.
Because I make it a thing.
If the data were if it were anecdotal in 2025, I suppose that would also bear out for me, but only because we've seen, there have been a lot of kids' movies out.
You're also finding me realizing horrified in real time that theoretically I could have an 18-year-old, so that would still stand.
Ashley now needs a moment. She'll be back in a few minutes.
My point still stands for the 18-year-olds, but
you should see the look on Ashley's
God.
face right now. It's just we should
the 18-year-olds we could
that.
theoretically have had by now.
All right, well let's move on from that topic, Ashley. Why don't we go?
Let's move on from our midlife crises.
Yeah. So, all right. What do you think for podcasts? I'll go to Natalie on this.
I'm going to say 37.
All right.
I'm going to say younger. I'm going to say 34.
All right. Ashley?
Are these going in order?
They're getting older, yes. So we are going up. I'll give you that.
I'm going to go
that
32.
Much. All right. Elaine wins, 34. Very nice, Elaine.
I didn't realize we
I
were
want
going in
something.
order. I would have gone lower. Okay.
All right, fine. I'll go either way. Instagram, I'll just say also was 34. So, Natalie, you were pretty close on that. That was before the guest there. What do you think for Netflix? This is a curious one. I don't know. Be curious what you think on this one.
42.
All
I
right.
was also going to say 42, so I'll say 39.
Oh, my. All right, Natalie.
Consensus. Let's all go for it here.
You're correct. Very good. It's 42.
42? Oh, my God.
That's very, see, you still got it, Ashley. See you and your 18-year-old right there. Just nailing the quizzes there, getting it all done. All right. And, well, YouTube was popular there. So what do you think the age of that is? And that it could be about higher or lower. I'm not going to tell you which one the Netflix, but what's the median age for YouTube?
It's got to be lower.
All right. I'm going to say 38.
All right. Ashley?
36.
Elaine?
33.
38 it is. So well done. You're very on
Very
brand.
nice.
Like and subscribe. Well done. You really you've proven the business there. So we'll round out here. NFL, what do you think? Elaine, you're a big sports person. Let's go.
Yeah, me. I love football. I don't know, 55.
Okay. Natalie?
I'm going to say 49.
All right. Ashley?
60.
You get points for delivery. I'll tell you that much, Ashley. That's true. But Elaine wins again, 55. Very good, Elaine.
Yes.
Elaine's good at ageism. Very good. All right, here we are. Finally, we'll go
I don't know
cable
if I
news.
want that on my business card.
I'll rephrase that. That's not age guessing. I'm sorry. Cable news. Natalie, your favorite platform. What do we got here? Median age of the cable news viewer.
75.
Okay. Okay. Wow. All right. Going big, guys. All right, Ashley.
58.
Oh, wow. Okay. Elaine, land the plane here.
69.
All right. Well, you're getting close. We'll give you the Price is Right challenge here. 70 is the age. So we'll give you that to you, Elaine. So 75.
Dang.
I mean, I guess that's actually, I shouldn't laugh at that.
My fatal flaw there is forgetting that there aren't as many people over the age of 75 to average things out.
I was like, your view on American mortality, very optimistic.
I know the numbers there are like, if you look at the median definition. So anyway, lovely job. Elaine, we'll give you the title. We'll give you one for the books there. You know, look at that. So.
Wow. I don't actually think I won that one. I think it was Natalie, but you know what? I'll take it.
You're all winners and you're all 25 in my book. So there we go. All right, the box office, Elaine. We some Thunderbolts. We got any Ashley taking the kids to that, or what do we got? Any outings for Marvel? We got Marvel back in theaters. Anything?
I'm going to see Sinners finally
Oh, good.
on
Okay, great.
The 6th because it's my birthday, and that's what I want to do.
Excellent choice.
Happy
Excellent
early
choice.
birthday.
There you go.
Thank
All
you.
right. Yeah, tracking. We'll say the reviews have been pretty, better than Captain America, which probably isn't saying too much, but I was very curious to see how it does.
Yeah, I'll give Thunderbolts a chance.
It's a movie that
It got decent reviews.
Yeah, the reviews are like, it's like, I think it'd be word of mouth on this movie because I think, again, like, it's not like, oh my God, that must see, like, Avengers or top tier. Obviously, it's a new franchise in that sense, but I feel like people may be like, this is really fun, and it's like I heard Florence Pugh is very good in it. Like I have a feeling that when it has the next weekend, May 9th to itself. So I
This
think
seems
that's
like a
gonna
long
be the case.
tail kind of
It
movie.
seems like it'll play through May, until Mission Impossible. Which Elena, are you going to Mission Impossible Memorial Day weekend?
Hell yeah,
All
I
right,
am.
that was my other question for you. So I'm like, Miss Mission Impossible has to finish her oeuvre and get the 8th
I'm
one
a
down.
completist,
Oh,
okay?
you are, yeah, a late bloomer completist, but nevertheless a completist. So there's your box
Have you
office.
heard about this guy, Tom Cruise?
Yeah,
He's really
exactly.
something.
These Mission Impossible movies are really good. I'm like, yeah, thanks, Elaine. Breaking news. That was Elaine on the pod about 15 months ago. It was great. We love that update. So anyway, there's your box office, Elaine. So Richard and I will break that down on our Substack Lives on Monday. If you want to join us for Richard and I on, we do a little live chat.
Yeah, it's
on
new and it's
Mondays
great.
On Substack Live. You can join us there on Monday for a box office breakdown. So there you go, Elaine.
All right. Well, that's a wrap on this week's Ankler podcast. Make sure you go to theankler.com to sign up for all of our newsletters, our podcasts here at The Ankler. And of course, if you have any feedback for us, we'd love to hear your thoughts. So leave us a rating and review from wherever you get your podcasts. It helps us grow, helps us reach new listeners. And while you're at it, follow The Ankler on social media at The Ankler. That's our handle on all your favorite social platforms. All right. Thanks so much to Sean McNulty, Natalie Jarvie, and Ashley Cullins for being on today's show. And of course, a special thanks to all of you for listening. We'll see you next time.